Hello, welcome back. Happy New Year. I hope you are well and safe and resourcing and bringing in everything that brings you joy, peace, and happiness. With a new year brings a changing world, changing things happening not only in our lives but in the world around us. Feels like every month and every year and even every day there is more and more stuff happening in our global, political, social and cultural environment. I definitely start to feel like for me that sometimes it feels like something only 10 years ago you would have made up, like things that you see on the news and things that are developing and technology that's developing and advancing. The public figures that are appearing in the global sphere, it can be like a movie from 15 years ago or something has just manifested in the world now. And I remember when I was younger, I would think of these stories and ideas about like crazy people and crazy technology and like, what if this happened or what if that happened? And I feel like other people would say similar things, and now it is happening before us. The essential thing I want to get across in this video is how heated up the world is getting, obviously, like not only literally but also metaphorically, maybe figuratively. We feel this way? Is it just because we see the news more often, we have more world events on our little screens more than ever? Or is it genuine, and is it true and real? And I'd say all of those things for sure, regardless of whether we can access global news stories every single day and every single hour, every single second. It naturally will feel like more that we feel the intensity of the world and world events and the wars that are going on, the intense, rapid decline in the nature, our climate, our environment, bigotry, hatred, fascism, all these things that feel like they're all happening at once, what they call the polycrisis. And I'm not a historical, social, cultural expert. This is all from my own perspective, and you completely disagree with this. That is also okay, totally valid as well. But I definitely feel that, yes, we are going through a time in our human history, in our world, that is, I don't want to say unprecedented, maybe, but that is quite huge and something that someone like me or many of us might not even truly comprehend, especially if we are in a place of privilege and relative well-being and have security. I sense this stuckness in our global culture, in the Western world especially, and I sense it in myself of, we know all these things are happening, challenges, inequality, even in our local communities and environments. It feels so overwhelming that we don't know what a part we have to play in it is. It is going to feel overwhelming, and the natural response for when we have so much going on to do is to shut down and to sometimes not do anything. And I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. That is just a natural human response, and that's completely normal and natural and okay. But then if we are maybe politically or socially engaged, we on top of that might feel overwhelmed about what we can do about it, what our small part to play in it can be, wanting to do huge things, but obviously not all of that being entirely achievable, feeling guilt and shame and all these things about the parts maybe we do have to play in it, how naturally everyone in the world will have to act according to their conditions, where they're born, the environment they're born in. And when people say how where you're born is pure chance, it is so true. And so I really want to talk about what can we do, how we can recognise that the world situation that we're in 2026, in a seemingly the news on our screens is there, and how can we truly understand it and reflect, make change, and not only focus on kind of politics and things, but just how being us and being truly ourselves and being the best we can and living the best life we can possibly bring can have an effect on the poly crisis. I don't know if I want to use that word too much, but all these world crises and challenges that we're facing in this current time. This is naturally very difficult to talk about because I am someone who lives in a middle class home in a generally middle class environment. I'm white, I'm able-bodied, I don't have any illnesses or anything that limit my capacity to do what is expected of most people day to day, and so many more things which do make it easy for me to make change or access positive things in my life and the environment around me so much more easily. But there are so many people and communities, environments that do not have that at all. I think such a big thing in making sense of the world around you and understanding it is having some kind of, I don't know, I want to say faith because that has spiritual and religious connotations and that could be triggering for many people, but having some kind of inner guide, drive, purpose, even if this is something really small. And obviously inner drive, purpose, meaning all these things is inner fundamentally, and that is the most essential thing. But something small could be bringing to mind the work you do that gives you purpose and meaning. I work in a school as a learning support assistant in a mainstream secondary school. Obviously live in the UK, you can tell by my accent, and that gives me so much meaning and purpose, and that's often a drive for me every day when I do feel powerless and like I don't know what to do and what is my place in the world and everything that's going on. And those young people's lives, many of them who do live in incredibly challenging circumstances, challenging home environments, challenges in their inner life every day, and knowing that I can have an effect on them, a positive effect, does bring me that energy and passion day to day. And obviously so many of us don't have meaningful jobs. I am in a very lucky position to be like that. I've had many terrible jobs that I haven't enjoyed. But it could even be your best friend or close friends you have, and knowing what you mean to them, what they mean to you, or a group or activity that brings you a lot of joy. It could be a social group, youth group, skill sharing thing you do with your friend, I don't know, anything. Passions, hobbies, interests are really big as well. And I've known that in my life, and those who have struggled throughout my life, when they have something that they really enjoy doing and they go into a flow state whilst doing it, it can help them to have a sense of purpose and joy, even if it's something they do once every day or once every week. And I do feel everyone has these hobbies, even if you don't feel you do. I think we all have certain interests and things which we feel suit us and that we can work on, and creative activities that we enjoy. And I think in this we should know that it is bringing value. I think every hobby you have can be something that gives meaning to the world. And I very much disagree with anyone who says that any kind of thing like that is purely self-centered, because by being fully invested in something you love doing, you're being kind to yourself by doing something that you love, and you're also inspiring others around you, and you don't know the impact that could have on them and the change in life that could have on them. And I don't think it's about doing it purely for yourself or others. I think it should just be doing a hobby, practicing something just because you enjoy it, and then that naturally has an effect. So these are examples of things that we can focus on and do to bring small ways of faith and purpose and drive into our lives. I think the more we do these things and the more we find these kind of pockets of love, joy, passion, the more it will kind of light up our life as a whole without sounding really cheesy. Another big thing is connection with yourself and others in the world around you. What does that mean and what does that entail? I think connection a lot of the time is those small moments you have of yourself where you're not really doing loads, you're drinking a cup of tea and just chilling, or before you go to sleep having that moment of not feeling too preoccupied with anything, where you can go into bed at night and you can the worries of the day behind you, or at least just for 8 or less hours or however well you sleep, where you feel really at peace and connected with yourself. And activities like meditation, mindfulness, or maybe if you do consider yourself spiritual or religious in some way, those meditative and faith practices are wonderful ways of connecting with yourself. But even if you don't at all, even if you consider yourself atheist or whatever, there are ways of connecting with yourself that can remind you of the joy of life that you feel, but maybe you don't feel most days because we are doing things, we are busy, we are preoccupied with many different things all at once. And again, that would link to hobbies and interests and being really in the flow of something that you love doing. And connection with others, other humans, other people. Don't be ever ashamed to rely on your community and anyone that brings you joy, whether it's a best friend or close friends or colleagues or whoever. Even if it's one person, another person, if someone makes you feel good and knows you well and who is consistent and reliable and loyal in your life, you should absolutely be with them and spend time with them as a way to bring joy in your life and drive. All of these things add up. Like, it could be bringing into the connection and purpose and doing something you love, finding groups and activities in your local environment community that are regular and when you can meet like-minded people or anything similar like that. And another thing about connection is non-human connection, something that we so often don't value or appreciate enough, I don't feel, in our world. Just spending time in nature, maybe a park around you, or if you're more lucky and more able to, in any sense of the term, a woodland or somewhere beautiful, filled with nature that's maybe a bit further away from where you live. Even if it's just a tree in your backyard, having that connection, I found, has been transformative, because I think so much of my life I didn't truly appreciate even just the beauty of wonderful trees, and just taking a moment to look at it and observe it and sense it. It definitely reminds you that nature is the truest expression of life, and that actually when you truly observe something in nature, you start to see that actually there is nothing like really dividing you and that natural thing. Not to sound really wishy-washy, but that can be something very powerful. Animals, non-human animals, are very important. Having pets, I miss having cats. I love kittens. Wish they could be a part of my life, but I don't have them at the moment. They sadly both passed during the pandemic, so I have to find alternative ways of finding joy in animals. And for me, sometimes, a lot of the time, that is just Instagram reels of cats doing really cute, cool things. And you might say, well, that's online, you can't do that, that's not real. I say, yeah, you fucking can. If that brings you joy and that's your way of connecting with non-human people, yes, animals are people, then you go and do that, because those are real creatures and you should value that. There are so many other ways of truly connecting and engaging with the world around us. I'm worried this sounds like really like a ramble. I am tired and this might not be the best structured way to talk, but connection and drive, purpose, faith are really fundamental. And a lot of the time that does start small and in more subtle ways. I don't think social change has to necessarily be big protests and big demonstrations. It really, really can just be you being yourself, truly connected with yourself and the world around you, because that has an effect on many people's lives. And obviously it can be that too. It can of course be big demonstrations, protests, if you're that kind of person. And we should absolutely understand the things that are going on in the world, educate ourselves of what is happening, but doing so in a way that is best for you and best for your well-being. In such a way, it could be limiting the news you read every day. At the moment, I'm just doing it once in the morning, even on a weekday. That's kind of the boundary I have with myself, and helps to create consistency. Like, yeah, just news that time, done. Usually for me it's in the morning, where I can just get it done whatever, and then it's done, and don't have to worry about it later in the day. I find that people's stories are way more powerful and important to read than statistics. Oh my god, how do I say it? Statistics? I'm gonna go with that. And facts, which can seem quite grim and mundane. Not only well-known public figures, but also it could be someone in your family or friends or those around you who have a fascinating story that has to do with the history of social justice or something similar, and maybe because of their identity and how they've grown up, they've had a very challenging but yet fascinating and inspiring story that you can listen to and ask questions about. Or it could be podcasts or books or things like that, where you can read and learn from the story of someone else, or sharing your story is really important. And this is what I found with my channel here. Yes, not many people watch it. If it is, it's mainly me or close people around me, but it's expressing who you are truly and bringing your various identities and passions and quirks and things into that. So I think this is essential. We shouldn't just think of social change as big things. It can be subtle things that, when we say small, I don't think they're even small, because they can add up. And maybe labeling those small things as small maybe does diminish their impact slightly, because they do have an effect not only on ourselves but the world around us. So I don't know if there's anything more to say, but really I just think this message is more important than ever. Truth, purpose, if you don't want to call it that, drive, I don't know. But in this time, which is often quite overwhelming and scary and confusing for all kinds of generations and ages and demographics and identities, we need to remember that we can start now, we can be who we are, and that will have a positive effect on those around us in such a big way. So yeah, that's that. Hope you are well, you stay safe, and you be truly who you are and inspire others in some way. Okay, peace out. Bye bye.